Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi ala ni'mat al-Islami wa kafa biha ni'ma. All praise and gratitude be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on His blessing of Islam, which suffices as a blessing. So I'd like to welcome you on the 28th para, which we will begin today. And we are looking at Surah Mujadilah. Mujadilah literally, it's a Madni surah and it means argument or to contend. Or literally it means a woman who argued. So, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Qad sami'allahu qawla allati tujadiluka fi zawjiha wa tashtaki ila Allah, wallahu yasma'u tahawurakuma inna Allaha samiyun basir. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Allah has heard the plea of the woman who was debating with you about her husband and was complaining to Allah. Allah was hearing the conversation between both of you. Indeed, Allah is hearing, seeing. Now, this was a tradition during the days of the Jahiliyyah that men, when they wanted to kind of degrade their wives, they would call them their mothers, and then after that assume that after this utterance that they are our mother, they were no longer their wives, and no relationship was done. So this case was presented before our Prophet ﷺ by one of the women who really didn't want a divorce because she had young children, and the husband in a state of anger had said to her, and so she came to our Prophet. And this is a case which is what you call, Quran would refer this word in the subsequent ayahs as zihar. So this is the case of zihar. So Quran has actually now laid down a procedure, and that procedure is kind of a conflict resolution. If this happens, what do you need to do? Those of you who make their wives unlawful to them by zihar, they are not their mothers. Their mothers are none else but those who give birth to them. Undoubtedly, they utter an evil word and a lie, and Allah is surely pardoning, forgiving. So now the correction of the earlier tradition being done in this ayah, that it is unnatural that if someone calls his wife as his mother, but then she doesn't become his mother, right? And that's what Quran is saying. It's like someone we call our son, he's, oh son, doesn't mean he becomes our real son. Those who declare zihar against their wives then retract what they said. Obligated on them is to free the neck of a slave before the two touch one another. That is what you are advised, and Allah is well aware of what you do. So those who have spoken these words in a kind of a careless way, they need to retract that, and then they have to pay a penalty, and that penalty is freeing a slave, so that people understand the kind of seriousness of their word, and they are careful in saying these silly things. But whoever does not find a slave has to fast for 2 consecutive months before the two touch one another. Then the one who is not able to do so has to feed 60 needy. This is laid down so that you believe in Allah and His Messenger. These are the limits set by Allah, and for the disbelievers there is a painful punishment. So if you do not find a slave, Quran says, meaning that there may be a time when there is no slave, like in our present time. Hence the alternate being given over here, continuous fasting for 2 months. When you say continuous fasting, it means that if one misses even a single fast, then one has to start all over again. Now, kind of, you can see from this these very strict punishment that this is kind of importance a wife has in a family unit, and a husband needs to be very careful in dealing with them. Now, without going into too details, touching, we understand it means under establishing relationship. Now, if someone is old or unwell and cannot fast, in which case Quran also specifies over here that feeding 60 poor, and that what kind of feed that would be according to what that person consumes as food in his home, and according to his financial position. Surely those who oppose Allah and His Messenger shall be disgraced, just as those before them were disgraced. And indeed we have sent down clear verses, and for the disbelievers there is a humiliating punishment. So here opposing means that people who place their own laws in front of the laws of Allah, and the limits that have been laid by Allah, they cross those limits, set their own limits. Now such people are called those people who oppose Allah, and those who oppose Allah, their end will be similar as of nations who have opposed Allah. On the day when Allah will resurrect them all together and will tell them what they did, Allah has full account while they have forgotten it. Allah is a witness to everything. So people should know that, and they should know this, that Allah never forgets. And they should not be under any misunderstanding that if after sinning they have forgotten, then Allah has also forgotten. They should know that Allah does not forget. He notes everything, and everything is in His account, and He is a witness of all things. Have you not observed that Allah knows everything in the heavens and in the earth? No secret consultation takes place between the three, but He is the fourth of them, nor between five, but He is the sixth of them, nor between fewer than that or more, but He is with them wherever they may be. Then He will tell them on the day of judgment what they did. Surely Allah has full knowledge of all things. So you can see the great contrast, right? And the contrast is, one is the conduct of the woman. She brought her grievance to the right level. She came in front of the Prophet. She was upfront. She was straightforward. This is a proper way, right? And that's what Quran tells us. The wrong way is to do najwa, and that is mutual consultation between each other for no purpose other than just sort of, talking to each other. If there is a conflict or a difference, and not bringing it to the concerned people or the concerned authority, nothing gets resolved. And the result is that a party is created within a party. A descendant group is really created when people just consult each other and not bring it to the required authority. Such people neither have the moral courage to take the matter to the concerned authority, nor do they sincerely want to resolve it amongst themselves. This is what you call a rebellious attitude. Such people are few in a society, in a community, but they become a problem for the entire cause. So Allah wants people to know that He is Sami, that He hears everything, and that this najwa, this mutual consultation for a wrong purpose, will be detrimental on the day of judgment. Did you not see those who were forbidden from holding secret talks? Then they do again what they were forbidden to do. They whisper for sinful acts and wrongdoings and disobedience of the Prophet. And when they come to you, they greet you the way Allah does not greet you, and they say to themselves, why does Allah not punish us for what we say? Enough for them is hell, they will enter it, and it is an evil destination. Now this ayat very clearly states that the hypocrites and the Jews, they would come to the mehfil of our Prophet ﷺ, and then they started this kind of a whispering campaign. They would whisper to each other, and obviously this was disliked. That they had, our Prophet ﷺ disliked it too a lot, and this dislike of our Prophet came onto his face, and this would also hurt him and cause pain to him. Not only this, they would also twist the words to belittle our Prophet and insult him, and this is what is being referred in this ayah, that this is a verbal expression of their inner condition. So the anger and the jealousy that they cannot control actually comes into their words. So even while they were greeting, they would twist the words in a way that it would become like, cursing someone, cursing our Prophet ﷺ. O you who believe, when you confer with each other in private, do not give to one another counsel of sin and revolt and disobedience for the messenger, and give counsel of goodness and taqwa, and fear Allah before whom you will be gathered together. So these are the etiquettes of a majlis, of a group. When you go to a majlis, when you go to a place where other people are there, this is the adab of that people do not whisper to each other. This is considered to be such a rude thing that even if you are in a group of, or a company of people, a group of people, and you are the only one who knows one language and the other people don't understand, or some understand and the others don't, it's always better to actually speak in a language which is commonly understood by some people. Now in our society sometimes we see people just, they want to speak English in a group of people where other people, some of them do not understand. So this is a very, very rude thing to do and shouldn't be really done. Indeed, secret counsel is from the shaitan, so that he may grieve those who believe, while it is not harmful to them in the least, except with Allah's permission. And in Allah the believers must put their trust. O you who believe, when it is said to you, make room in the assemblies, then make room, and Allah will make room for you. And when it is said, rise up, then rise up. Allah will exalt those who believe among you and those who have been given knowledge to high ranks. Allah is well aware of what you do. So in a mehfil where our Prophet ﷺ was there in a gathering in which lots of people would come to acquire knowledge. Now if the crowd was too much, if too many people turned up, then people are advised to show this common courtesy. Make space for, by sitting closer to each other, make space by letting those people who are elder to sit down. And if some people were asked to move, then they should not make this a kind of an ego issue. They should move. Hence it is just, people must get up, they must rise up, and Allah says, Allah will elevate your darja. Allah will give you a higher position because, you rose up for someone else. Now to comply to this hukum does not require that you need to overcome your ego, right? Some people have this ego and they just don't want to move from their seat. So Allah has kept a reward for it, but this is the following of an order of the organizers, right? It should not be that individuals should ask one another to get up. I mean, that's not really the intent of this. This is only for the organizers who can do that. As an individual, we shouldn't ask people to get up and then sit in their places. So these are kind of general courtesies that should be imbibed in people, that they should respect and give regards to each other. O you who believe, when you consult the messenger in private, then offer something in charity before your consultation. This is better for you and purer. But if you find nothing, then Allah is most forgiving, merciful. Is it that you are afraid of offering charities before your consultation? So when you did not do so, Allah has forgiven you. Then establish salah and pay zakah and obey Allah and His messenger, and Allah is well aware of what you do. So a lot of Muslims wanted to have private conversation with our Prophet ﷺ. And obviously Prophet ﷺ was a very busy man. He had many responsibilities. He was the head of the state. He was a commander of the army. He was a judge. He had wives. He had a big family. And he was also an imam. He would give khutbah. So time was clearly precious for him. But when people came and requested private time from him, then only because of his courtesy, and he was a very polite man, and politeness, he would not say no to them. Now some people, just to create an impression that they are very important and very special, so they would seek private audience with our Prophet ﷺ. Now this behavior clearly was not conducive, as it would create unrest among people at large. So therefore, in order to reduce this tendency, the hukum revealed here was that before private conversation with our Prophet, they need to give sadaqah. Now those who came with sincerity and with true love of our Prophet ﷺ, they recognized that this request for private meeting was taxing our Prophet ﷺ, so they became careful. While munafiqs and hypocrites, their main weakness is money. So this hukum of sadaqah became a hurdle for them. Now also please remember that this hukum didn't last long, and when the purpose of this hukum was achieved, this hukum was abrogated. So Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu said that when this commandment of charity came, Prophet ﷺ consulted him in respect to the quantity, how much charity should be offered, and Hazrat Ali suggested that gold equivalent to a grain of barley should be the charity. Now it is said that Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was the only person to act upon this hukum, because soon afterwards this commandment was withdrawn. Have you not seen those who have befriended a people upon whom is the wrath of Allah? They are neither of you nor of them. They swear falsely while they know. So on whom was the ghazab of Allah, the wrath of Allah, the anger of Allah? Those who rejected like the Jews, they were aware that this is the truth, but for reasons of pride turned away. Or the hypocrites, they also knew this is the truth, but for personal gains they did not follow or obey the commandment. Now it is a recorded fact that majority of assassination attempts on our Prophet ﷺ had the backing or the support or the direct involvement of the Jewish tribes. So simply someone who loves Allah, how can he make friends with such people? People who are the enemies of Allah. How can he adopt their way of life? The love of Allah and the love of His enemies cannot really live into the same heart. So here is a warning that if you act in this manner, you will become two-faced. Munafiqs are people who want acceptance both by Muslims and by non-Muslims. Hence, munafiq get rejected by both. The Muslims don't, consider them to be Muslims, and the non-Muslim obviously don't consider them to be Muslims. They are rejected by both. So the message is, choose your boat. Don't keep stepping on both the boards. Don't keep your feet in both the boards. And a mu'min is well grounded and does not change. Wherever he is a slave of Allah and he is conscious of Allah. Allah has prepared a severe punishment for them. Indeed, evil is what they have been doing. So Allah's anger is more on the munafiq because they are far more dangerous. They are much more dangerous than people who openly reject. And in fact, the chances of correction is more for a kafir than for a munafiq who keeps justifying his actions. They have taken their oath as a shield and then have prevented people from the way of Allah. Therefore, for them, there is a humiliating punishment. So, munafiq used qasam, they used as an oath as a shield and used them to protect themselves whenever there was a call for jihad or whenever there was a call for infaq, which means spending in the way of Allah. So when there was a demand, they would come to our Prophet ﷺ and they would swear and take oath and make excuses that we really want to do this, but this is our majburi, these are the circumstances, these are beyond our control. Fine, that's fine. Our Prophet would accept that. They think that they are saving themselves, but Allah says actually they are really depriving themselves of a big benefit. Their riches and their children will never benefit them in front of Allah at all. They are the inmates of fire. They will live therein forever. So what really gave rise to nifaq and to hypocrisy? What gives rise to hypocrisy? Excessive love of wealth, excessive love of children. Loving to such an extent that the love of wealth and children prevents a person from going for jihad or spending in Allah's way. The realization that these blessings are given to people as a means of achieving akhirat. So if you have wealth and you have good children, this is a sadqa jariyah, this is a way to achieve akhirat. So that children become a source of perpetual benefit in the hereafter. And the wealth that we spend in this world that Allah has given is to acquire the raza of Allah. The day Allah will raise all of them and they will swear before Him as they swear before you, and they will think that they have something to stand upon. Be assured that they are sheer liars. So from this it is clear that even on Qiyamah, hypocrites will be liars. They will be saying things which are untrue because they lied so much in this world that it became their second nature. And hence in front of Allah, this habit will also show itself when they will lie in front of Allah. Now, interestingly, this is very interesting that the personality of a person will be the same that a person develops in this life. If we are people with good personality, that's how we will be in front of Allah. So those who lie here, they will also lie even in front of Allah. The shaitan prevailed upon them, so he has made them forget remembering Allah. They are a party of shaitan. Be assured that it is the party of shaitan who are the losers. So when man forgets Allah, his heart becomes empty. And an empty house is always an unprotected house. And any thief like shaitan can come and occupy it. Indeed, those who oppose Allah and His Messenger, they will be most humiliated. In this world, humiliation in the hands of Muslims, and in the hereafter, humiliation by Allah. Allah has decreed, I will certainly prevail, both I and my Messenger. Surely Allah is all strong, almighty. So whenever prophets came, only they and their followers were in the end saved. No matter how strong the kufr was, how large the number of kafir was, the rejectors were ultimately destroyed. You will not find those who believe in Allah and in the last day befriending those who oppose Allah and His Messenger, even though they may be their fathers or their sons or their brothers or their clan. They are such that Allah has inscribed faith on their hearts and supported them with the Spirit from Him. He will admit them in gardens beneath which rivers flow, in which they will live forever. Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. Those are the party of Allah. Be assured that it is the party of Allah who are successful. So anyone who finds little iman in his heart, he should be thankful, no matter how faint that iman is. To such people, Allah is giving advice. Don't love those who are the enemies of Allah. Not loving doesn't mean that one should not help them or care for them or feed them or look after them. But it means that their love should not lead us to make them our role model, that we copy their way of life. We shouldn't really adopt the culture of disbeliever in the place of Islamic culture. Now we begin with the next surah, Surah Hashr, which means gathering, and this illustrates a story of, the story of the expulsion of the Jewish tribe of Banu Nazir, and this happened in the 4th year of Hijrat. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Sabbaha lillahi ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard wa huwal azizul hakim. Allah's glory has been proclaimed by all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth, and He is the Almighty, All-Wise. So we begin with the bayan of the azmat of Allah. Hence, it is best for people that they maintain correct relationship with Allah. His azmat is infinite. And if we not to bring grief and trouble, if people disobey Allah and they are confronting Allah, they are doing nothing but bringing grief and trouble on themselves. He is the one, ayat number 2 again. He is the one who expelled the disbelievers among the people of the book from their homes at the first gathering. You did not expect that they would leave, and they deemed that their fortresses would protect them from Allah. But Allah came to them from where they did not expect and cast fear in their hearts. They were demolishing their homes with their own hands and with the hands of the believers. So learn a lesson, O people of insight. So it's so easy for Allah, right? To defeat enemy, it's so easy for Allah. Allah just snapped their energy. The Jews who were there, the Jews gave up without fighting. Although they were in their fortresses, very, very well protected. But Allah came to them not from the door of the fortress, but the doors of their hearts. They became faint-hearted. So when, the moral of a nation goes down, when, the morale of a nation really goes down, fear paralyzes these people. Despite worldly power, they will be unable to defend themselves, unable to even press the trigger. So take ibrat. That's what Quran says in the end. Take ibrat. The wise is the one who sees these things and takes a lesson. If Allah had not destined exile for them, He would have punished them in this world, and for them in the hereafter is a torment of fire. So Allah has ordained that they will be expelled, or else they would have certainly faced their death like their other tribe, which is the tribe of Banu Qurayza, faced. That is because they were hostile to Allah and His Messenger, and whoever has hostility with Allah, verily Allah is severe in punishment. Quran makes it very clear, whoever fights and opposes the Messenger, he is fighting and opposing Allah. And whoever opposed Allah, he has to be ready for some dire consequences. Whatever palm trees you have cut down or left them standing on their roots, it was with Allah's permission, and so that He might disgrace the transgressors. So when Muslims surrounded the fortress of Banu Nazir, then as a part of a war strategy, they began cutting down some of the trees around that. Now those trees were a source of hindrance, and they were cut down. But those that were not a source of hindrance, they were left standing. So on this, the hypocrites in Medina and the Jews began a campaign that Islam stops from fasad on the earth, and Muslims are causing so much destruction, destroying all these trees. Now, in a way, they were right? To a certain extent, because Islam has laid down detailed ruling for its followers, even when they go for war, that they are not to destroy trees and cut crops. But these circumstances were, very different. And these instructions are not unbreakable or kind of a sacred instructions. So sometimes there are circumstances which will really determine the line of action. Therefore, as part of a war strategy, if lives have to be protected, then trees can be sacrificed. So in wars, literally in wars, the hurmat of life is lost. People kill each other. So what is a plant in front of a human life? Therefore, it is stated that there is no blame if trees were cut or left. It was with Allah's permission. And whatever fair is a property that is acquired by Muslims, if there is no war and they get some property, people surrender, and property left behind. So there are two different properties, Bait al-Mal, which is after a war or after a jihad, and Fa is a property that is left behind. And whatever Fa, which is left over property, Allah has passed on His messenger for them. You did not press forward against it any horses or camels, but Allah gives predominance to His messengers over whomsoever He wills, and Allah has power over everything. So the real Malik, the real owner of the world is Allah, and the rightful beneficiaries are those who are really obedient to Allah. Those who rebel, they are not beneficiaries of the wealth. Whatever Fa Allah has passed on His messenger from the people of the towns is for Allah and for the messenger and for the kinsmen and orphans and needy and wayfarer, so that it may not circulate only between the rich among you. And whatever the messenger gives you, take it, and whatever he forbids you from, abstain. And fear Allah, indeed Allah is severe in punishments. So now the first and the foremost is the share. The share is of Allah and His messenger, and the rest would be spent on giving khairat and sadaqah and for conveyance of jihad. Now the economic and financial system of Islam, there is a bit of a policy statement that's being given over here. First thing is that Mali Ghanimat is distributed to those who take part in the war. If they get Mali Fa also, they would have accumulated all the wealth, and those who were not taking part in jihad or in the war, they would really become poor. So this is Islamic financial system in a nutshell. First, Islam is not against creation of wealth. But it is how the wealth, once it is created, how it must be circulated. Otherwise the difference between the rich and poor will widen. So this ayat that it comes with, so that it may not circulate only between the rich among you. That's what Islam discourages. Islam discourages this concentration of wealth, so that the difference between the rich and the poor continues to widen. That's what Islam is against. It wants that this difference must be reduced. Hence, Islam has made a system which results in the distribution of wealth through many, many different ways, like inheritance, like zakat, like meher, like sadaqah, like mali ghanimat, like mali fa. All these are there through which the wealth is circulated. And fair especially for the poor immigrants who were expelled from their homes and properties while they were seeking grace from Allah and pleasure and helping Allah and His Messenger. They are the truthful. So continuing on with the distribution of Mal Fair, key beneficiaries are Muhajirin who left everything in Makkah and migrated to Medina for the Raza and for the pleasure of Allah. And fair is also for those who established themselves in the homeland and in faith before the former ones, who have love for those who immigrated to them and do not feel in their hearts an ambition for what is given to the former ones and given preference over them, even though they are in poverty. And whoever is saved from one's own greed, they are the successful ones. This line, the last line, is really a profound ayah, right? And we need to think about this. And whoever is saved from one's own greed, they are the successful one. So the first part of this ayat is all talking about, Male Fair, that they should also be given to the Ansar who had given shelter and shelter to the Muhajirin. And the second part of this ayat is really a thing that we need to think about, that whoever is saved from his own greed, they are the successful one. And for those who came after them saying, Our Rabb, forgive us, and those of our brothers who preceded us in faith, and do not place in our hearts any rancor against those who believe. Surely our Rabb, you are very kind, merciful. So the third category of Muslims who will come in later generations, their qualities will be that they will be well-wishers of the previous Muslims. They will respect them and have reverence for them. They will pray that, O Allah, let not there be a split and hatred for any Muslim, even of the past. Do you not see the hypocrites saying to their brothers from those of the people of the book who are unbelievers, if you are expelled, we will certainly go out with you and will never obey anyone concerning you. And if you are fought against, we will definitely help you. Allah bears witness that they indeed are liars. So Banu Nazir, the Jewish tribe which broke a pact, the pact of Misaq-e-Medina, which was signed between our Prophet and these three tribes, the Jewish tribe and Prophet, when they broke this Misaq-e-Medina, our Prophet ﷺ gave 10 days notice to Banu Nazir, And the munafiqs send them a message saying, you remain steadfast and we will come and help you out and we will fight with you. We will not let you be expelled. And that's what Quran is saying, that these people are indeed liars. Surely if they are expelled, they will not go into exile with them, and if they are fought against, they will not help them. And even if they help them, then they will surely turn back, then they will not be helped. So Allah's comment over here is that they will never come to the help, the munafiqeen will never come and help these Jewish people, because the real disease of a munafiq is what? The real disease of a munafiq is not that he's fighting for a cause, because the real disease is that his love for self and wealth, that precedes everything. And this is what makes people faint-hearted and coward. So why would such people be willing to take risk for someone else? If they're not willing to take risk for their own self, they certainly will not take risk for anyone else. So never trust a munafiq that he will come and help and support. In fact, your fear in their heart is greater than that of Allah. That is because they are a people who do not understand. What Quran says is they are more afraid of Muslims than they are afraid of Allah, because they feared that they would lose their position in Makkah, that their livelihood was dependent on their relationship with Muslims. Hence, they could not afford to lose their worldly position. They do not fight you together, but in fortified towns or from behind the wall. Their quarreling between them is severe. You think that they are united while their hearts are divided. That is because they are a people who have no sense. So Quran makes it very clear, this ayah is addressed to the companions, that the Jews will not wage open war against you, but will fight from behind the wall. And this is a promise for Muslim, that when they become true moments, and not just for any born Muslims, that if you are true mu'min, if you are true Muslim, then this is a promise that Allah has made for all Muslims. They are like their immediate predecessors who tasted the evil consequences of their conduct, and for them there is a painful punishment. So reminding of the earlier defeat of Quraysh that they received at Badr, and the fate of Banu Nazir, who were then exiled from Medina. Like the shaitan, when he says to man, disbelieve, then once he disbelieves, he says, I disown you. I fear Allah, the Rabb of the worlds. So as regards to the deceit, Quran earlier narrated the mischief of the shaitan that he played on Quraysh before the Battle of Badr, and he promised the kuffar hope and protection, but then on seeing Muslims, he turned back onto his heel, and the same thing he will do now. So the end of both of them is that they will be in the fire, living there forever. That is a punishment for the wrongdoers. I think if you think about it, every difficulty, even the greatest difficulty that we face here in this world, you can bear it if we know that this is going to be over soon. It's a short difficulty, it's going to come to an end, we can bear it. But here it is said that this is going to be an unending pain, and the punishment that will be there, they will be living on it, they will be living in the fire forever. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha wal tanzur nafsum ma qaddamat lighad wattaqullah innallaha khabirun bima ta'malun. O you who believe, fear Allah, and everybody must consider what He has sent for tomorrow. Fear Allah, surely Allah is fully aware of what you do. So this last ruku of Surah Hashr. Tomorrow over here, who has sent ahead for tomorrow. Tomorrow is not in the sense of a date change, but in the sense of this world and the next world. So every soul, every person should check what it has done for the next life. وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. So be not like those who forget Allah. So He made them forget their own selves, and those are the sinners. To forget literally means to ignore, to have a careless attitude towards Allah. So when man doesn't recognize Allah, then from the best of the creation that Allah has made him, he becomes the worst of the creation. La yastabil ashabul nari wa ashabul jannah. Ashabul jannati humul faizun. And people of hell and people of paradise are not equal. The people of paradise are the successful. So they cannot be the same. They're two different breeds, right? Their lives are different, their priorities are different, their ambitions are different, their success is not the same. So people of garden and people of the fire cannot be the same. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Had we sent down this Quran on a mountain, you would have seen it humbled, splitting with the fear of Allah. We set forth these parables for people so that they may ponder. So if such a situation if such a situation of a mountain, one can imagine the state of a person. That if Quran had been sent down on a mountain, it would be humbled, number one. That's the first thing that must happen on people who read Quran, who understand. They must humble, splitting with the fear of Allah. And we said these parables for people so that they may ponder. So if Quran in many ways, I think, is a crushing responsibility. Firstly, to understand it properly, to absorb it, to implement it, to kind of spread this book. Understanding of this book is bound to result in fear. The more you read this book, the more it has the fear of Allah is constantly there, and that is not just a fear of Allah for any other reason other than the majesty of Allah, the might of the One. How mighty Allah is, the One who has revealed this Quran, which will compel and definitely change people. He is Allah besides whom there is no God, the knower of the unseen and the seen. He is the beneficent, the merciful. So here the Creator is introducing Himself through His attributes. The only way we can recognize Allah is through His attributes. After all, we cannot even understand people unless they chose to describe themselves to us. So we can recognize the Creator only through what He tells us about Himself. His attributes are limitless. And the first attribute that Allah introduces Himself is His attribute of mercy. He is Allah besides whom there is no God, the sovereign, the supreme in holiness, the safe, which means safe from all defects, the giver of peace, the guardian, the almighty, the all-repairer, the possessor of greatness. Pure is Allah from what they associate. Al-Malik, the king who gives everything, and what an honor it is to be the slave of the king of the kings. Quddus, despite being all-powerful king, he is free from all defects or all shortcomings that kings have. So with little power that Allah gives to the kings of this world, they develop many different defects, and Allah is free of that. Salam, the giver of peace. Al-Mu'min, the giver of peace and Iman, the internal peace that comes in from Iman. The protector, the Aziz, the noble. He is Allah, the creator, the inventor, the shaper. His are the most beautiful names. His purity is proclaimed by all that is in the heavens and in the earth, and He is almighty and all-wise. So Khaliq as Allah as the creator, Al-Bari, the maker, the exquisite creator, not just creating anything, but creating it to the level of perfection, the exquisite creation. Musawwir, giving finishing touches and bringing in the perfection. Now let's begin with the next surah, which is Surah Mumtahina. Mumtahina, again, the word imtihan also derived from it, which means a test. Imtihan is a test, and so here it literally means the one who is tested. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la tattakhidhu aduwwi wa aduwwakum awliya. O you who believe, do not take my enemies and your enemies for friends, expressing love with them while they have rejected the truth that has come to you, expelling the messenger and yourself, merely because you have faith in Allah, who is your Rabb. If you have set out to strive in my way and to seek my pleasure, you express love with them secretly, while I know what you have concealed and what you have revealed, and any of you who does this has missed the straight path. So this ayat, actually we look at Surah Mumtahina and we begin with this ayat which is prohibiting friendship between believers and non-believers, particularly those who have committed breaches of agreement against the Muslims. So secretly supporting disbelievers at the cost of the believers has a very high and very serious consequences. This very close friendship and intimacy with the enemies of Allah will only result in harming the community of Muslims at large, and is completely and totally prohibited, and it has been declared to be a transgression of the limits of Allah. Such friendship results in hypocrisy, despite the fact that the person may be attending to all Islamic rituals. Should they have access to you, they will become your enemies and will stretch their hands and tongues towards you with evil, and they desire that you disbelieve. So the general tendency of non-believers, by way of warning to the believers given over here, that when unbelievers and disbelievers have an upper hand, they never spare the believers in any respect whatsoever, irrespective of their friendship which they may be having with the believers. They have no adab and they have no respect for Allah and His Messenger. And this was not just 1442 years ago, even it is there today. Even today the same thing. I mean, what words they use for our Prophet ﷺ, the level that these people can sing to, the cartoons that they make. And it's not just about Islam and our Prophet ﷺ, even about their own prophets whom we regard as messengers and prophets of Allah. They accuse their messengers and their prophets of sins which even an ordinary man will find extremely gross. Neither your womb relation nor your children will benefit you on the day of judgment. He will decide between you, and Allah sees what you do. So those who destroy relationship with Allah for the sake of their relationship in this world, their family ties and their children and their parents and their relatives, they are warned that they will have no one to help them on the day of judgment. Indeed, there is an excellent example for you in Ibrahim and those with him, when they said to their people, we disown you and what you worship instead of Allah. We disbelieve in you. Enmity and hatred has arisen between us and you forever, unless you believe in Allah alone, except the saying of Ibrahim to his father, indeed I will pray for your forgiveness, and I have no power for you from Allah at all. O our Rabb, in you alone we trust, and to you alone we turn for help, and to you is the final return. So Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, as you can see over here, for his own people, for his own father, he is using kind of strong words, right? Very strong words, categorically dissociating himself from the disbelievers, not apologetic at all. It's not an apologetic style, straightforward, clear-cut. Although Ibrahim alayhi salam was a very kind-hearted man and an extremely loving and extremely caring person, but we see him speaking in a manner which is very different from his natural temperament. Because here there is a demarcation between kufr and Islam. And this is what Allah expects from all of us. This is what Allah expects from the moment, that Allah expects that we will defend our iman in an uncompromising manner. What Ibrahim alayhi salam also promised his father, that he will do istighfar for him, even this was not liked by Allah. And the words of disapproval came shortly after that. O our Rabb, do not make us a trial for those who disbelieve, and forgive us, our Rabb. Surely you are the Almighty, the All-Wise. So Allah, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praying to Him that we do not become a punching bag for the kuffar, particularly when kuffar is in power. They will and have always used every kind of pressure and force to turn Muslims away from their deen. Indeed, for you there is an excellent example in them for anyone who hopes to meet Allah in the last day. And if anyone turns away, Allah is free of all needs, worthy of all praise. So the entire topic that we've been talking about in this ayah sums up over here. Guidance is for those who aspire for the hereafter. These sacrifices will be given by such people. They will make Ibrahim alayhi salam as their role model. So only such people would actually be able to give the sacrifice who make Ibrahim as their role model. Maybe Allah will bring about love between you and those with whom you have enmity. Allah is powerful and Allah is most forgiving, merciful. So here a consolation and a comfort for Muslim that it is not easy to remain in a state of conflict with those whom we love. So a time may come, or time will come, when this situation will not remain, and that one has a choice between Allah and one's relatives. Allah does not forbid you as regards to those who did not fight you on account of faith and did not expel you from your homes, that you do good to them and deal justly with them. Surely Allah loves those who maintain justice. So there is no prohibition of friendship with those people who do not fight on the matter of religion against the believers. So if believers are free to practice their religion and they are not being persecuted, then we don't need to fight such people. No prohibition in dealing with them kindly and justly. It is permitted to serve to serve their non-believing parents, the non-believing brothers and sisters, provided that they are not the enemies of Islam. Allah forbids you only about those who fought you on account of faith and expelled you from your homes and helped in expelling you, that you have friendship with them. Whoever develops friendship with them are the wrongdoers. So a further clarification being made over here in Quran that this prohibition is only in respect of those who fight the believers in respect of religion, and it is they who are not to be taken as friends. O you who believe, when the believing women come to you as immigrants, put them to a test. Allah knows best about their faith. So if you find them to be believing, do not send them back to the disbelievers. Neither these are lawful for them, nor are they lawful for these women. And give them what they have spent. There is no blame on you if you marry them when you have given them their meher. And do not hold on to the ties of marriage with disbelieving women, and ask for what you have spent, and let them ask for what they have. That is the decision of Allah. He decides between you, and Allah is all-knowing, wise. Now, after hijrat of Muslim women, some Muslim women migrated from Makkah to Medina. Their marriage ties, and they were still married to non-believing husbands. Now this issue came up, and the issue became severe, especially after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. So first believing men would flee from Makkah to Medina, but as part of this treaty that our Prophet signed at Hudaybiyah, they had to be returned back. Such men had to be returned back to Makkah. But soon women began to arrive, deserting their non-believing husbands, and Makkans demanded that these women should be returned. Our Prophet ﷺ did not agree to the return of such women, since in the agreement it was very clearly written, and it was written that this agreement is in respect to men, and women was not included, and this agreement was dictated by the kuffar themselves. So our Prophet ﷺ insisted that only men will be returned as per this treaty. Now the rules relating to such women are being stated over here. Firstly, examine their faith. If you are satisfied that they have not migrated due to some other dispute, then it is fine. Then marital relationship with unbelieving husbands should abrogate it. Finally, their meher, which their disbelieving husbands had given them, was to be returned, and this was to be given by the state. And lastly, it was permissible for Muslim men to marry them after agreeing on to the terms of meher. And if any of your wives have gone from you to the disbelievers, and you have your turn, give to those whose wives have gone away the like of what they have spent, and fear Allah in whom you believe. O Prophet, when believing women come to you seeking oath of allegiance with you on condition that they will not ascribe any partner to Allah, and will not commit theft, and will not commit fornication, and will not kill their children, and will not come up with a false claim that they have false attributed between their hands and their feet, and will not disobey you in what is good, then take pledge or take oath from them, and pray to Allah for their forgiveness. Surely Allah is most forgiving, merciful. So the last ayat of this, Surah Al-Mumtahina. O you who believe, do not have friendship with the people with whom Allah is angry. Indeed, they despair of the hereafter, as the disbelievers despair from those in graves. So referring to this oath of allegiance, Prophet ﷺ took from men, and this oath of allegiance was taken by a Prophet at Mount Safa, and he deputed Hazrat Umar Radiallahu Anhu to take this oath from women, a similar oath which is given in the earlier ayah. So we stop over here. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quran al-Azim wa nafana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim.